All right, let's go ahead and get started and talk about conversation and confirmation in agile coaching. Before we get started, do want to give a shout out to Ron Jeffries for coining this phrase. Been using it in my career for the past 10 years, but at the same time, I think this was originally coined in probably 1998. Big shout out to Ron Jeffries for that. Uh, as we get started, let's talk a little bit about me. Why should you be listening to me? Basically, I have a small company called NBD Consulting Services, which is a boutique consulting services company based out of Orange County, and we specialize in agile transformations. Um, we've got 20 years of experience in the financial services industry as well as automotive and pharmaceutical. Um, Multiple years in program management offices working with portfolio management as well as product management. Tons of experience working on financial products. Why is that important? Is because highly regulated products are usually more difficult to manage in an agile environment. We also have a lot of experience working with AWS as well as Salesforce implementations and more recent mainframe to cloud transformations in the past 5 years. All right. Now that we've gotten through that, let's go ahead and talk about the main topic that we came here for. First, let's talk about the card. Um, Years ago, we used to use an index card, a 3x5 card, or sticky notes to kind of talk about specifically what story we were working on. Now we're using issue trackers such as Jira to write this card. And so it's really the first topic that starts the conversation, right? So it's a quick transition into the conversation, right? So, in the conversation, what are we doing? We're meeting with stakeholders. Is that your product owners, your customers? Is that developers, testers, whoever the group is? You're meeting with them to have some discussions. You may want to just take all those meetings, emails, chat messages, everything that you've been communicating, and then try to consolidate that into a single story or multiple stories. But ultimately, you want to start having those conversations and then consolidate those conversations into the cards themselves. Next topic is obviously the confirmation. So, after you've gone through, had all those conversations, said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to be working on," then the next step is ultimately just getting some clear confirmation on what you're doing. What's the acceptance criteria? And when it is done, how do you know that it's done? And at the same time, how are you going to communicate that it has been completed? And getting that all written down so there's no questions at the end. you know, the practical application in agile transformations are obviously agile coaching, agile teams, and stakeholder engagement. Again, I've been using this in agile teams for a long time, but more recently, in the past 5 years, I've started using it in my agile coaching practice while working with Scrum Masters or coaching agile leads on how to work with Scrum Masters. But every day, you can also still use this from stakeholder engagement. This is something the product owners or product management can use when they're going out and talking to stakeholders, or internally, you could use this as a method when you're working with external teams and getting clarity on what they may need of you, or vice versa. They may need something of you, or you may need something of them, and still a way of having that conversation. So, moving on. Let's see. Let's talk about agile coaching. Okay. When we talk about agile coaching, let's talk more about how it's been or how I've been applying it in my practice for agile coaching. So, when we talk about agile coaching, I would say, look, when you get this started, first set up a cadence of accountability with your Scrum Masters. Meet at least once a week, or that could be every couple of weeks. But the most important thing is don't forget to build trust with your Scrum Master. This is an environment for a safe environment, as well as providing feedback to the Scrum Master. So then that way they are empowered to go out and work with the teams, but at the same time, you have an opportunity to provide input on what they're doing. Let's see. Next thing, observation. So what you want to do is set up opportunities to have some observations to validate what you're expecting from the Scrum Masters and what you're thinking the team should be doing. And so the only way you can figure that out is by doing observations of their agile events. And I would say avoid at all costs attending retrospectives. Obviously, retrospectives are kind of like a no-no as far as attending those events unless you're on the team. However, I do work with Scrum Masters sometimes, so in that way we can make sure we understand what good looks like in a retrospective. I have the team invite me to retrospectives, so that way we can show them what good looks like and get some good practices coming out of that session. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the card specifically when it comes to agile coaching. So, what I do is I work with the Scrum Masters, and what we do is we create a card. So, if we want to work on backlog refinement, we see that there's some opportunity. What we do is we create a card called backlog refinement, and in there, our next step is to go, okay, look, we've got some opportunities for backlog refinement, and so let's go ahead and meet and have a discussion about that. And just keep in mind that a lot of times there's, this may seem like a lot of overhead, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is get visibility on the things that the Scrum Master is actually working on. Sometimes the software development piece is seen, uh, as a delivery, and but the delivery took a lot to get to that team to the right level, so in that way they can actually ingest work and be able to work on it and deliver quickly, but the efforts of the Scrum Master are not seen. So this is a tool for getting visibility on that. Let's talk about the conversation. So when we talk about the conversation, a lot of times what I do is I express what I think good looks like. However, there are some situations where team personality or certain nuances within the team may give you it may not be wrong. And so, because it may not be wrong and the team is doing well, it's not necessary to change just for the sake of change. So, it's key to, while you're having the conversations with Scrum Masters, to make sure you're validating whether it's an agile pattern or if it's a model that's working for the team and no change is needed. All right, let's move on to the confirmation. So, after discussing the card and identifying the key action items coming out of the conversation, now you want to talk about estimating the implementation timeframe. So, one of the things that I do is I work with Scrum Masters to kind of say, hey, do you think you can get this done in 30, 60, or 90? Obviously, in a 30-day window, it's got to be something small, maybe like getting a team working agreement in place is something that you might think about doing, versus 60 or 90 days. Those things take a little bit, that's a window for things that take a little bit longer. For example, any type of behavior change is going to take a little bit of time. So, I went too fast, too quickly. Just kind of think about this is that in most cases, it's going to take about 3 sprints in order to implement some change. Um, Usually the first sprint, it's experimentation. Second, when you're getting some feedback, making some adjustments. By the third sprint, you're implementing. Does that mean it's going to always be, you know, 3 sprints? No, it's probably going to be more or less depends on what the event is that you're trying to adjust or the behaviors that you're trying to modify. Okay. All right. We just finished talking about confirmation. All right. So all this said, after you get the card, you have the conversation, and of course you have the confirmation. What's next? Well, what you do is you put all those cards into your issue tracking tool, or what I like to use is Microsoft Teams, and so you end up with having a series of basic cards just for the daily sync, backlog refinement, sprint planning, sprint review, and a retrospective. And you'll end up something similar to what's here. Uh, Ultimately, the goal is to kind of customize this specific to the team, but there are some basics that I usually start off with, about 4 or 5 different cards with all Scrum Masters, and then get to some customized solutions for each of those members. Next thing I work on is just having some basic reporting to share with leadership, going, hey, this is what we're working on. Here are the things that are in progress, these things that are done. But again, MS Teams provides a out of the box solution, which makes it a little bit easier. However, I have worked with organizations where we're actually using Jira. It's a little bit more difficult to provide reports because there's nothing that's canned inside of Jira specifically for this, but you can use Microsoft BI, Power BI, so then that way you can get the right reporting that you want. At the end of this, the bottom line is what are we trying to do? We're really trying to provide guidance and support for the Scrum Masters. We do want to foster agile mindset as well as enhance team performance, help to facilitate collaboration, communication between the agile leads, coaches, the Scrum Masters, as well as the teams. And then again, focusing on continuous improvement, which is why we're here. We should relentlessly seek to improve our teams, our people, and our processes. This also provides an opportunity to determine some training, because if you see that you're working with several different Scrum Masters and they have the same needs, then you can have an aggregate view of those training needs and then go ahead and schedule that training as necessary. Uh, Finally, all of this helps align with organizational goals, so you can develop OKRs coming out of this. It encourages experimentation. Our end goal is making sure we have self-organized teams, and so you can see where there's a lot of hand-holding with Scrum Masters, where we start to do less hand-holding and do more promotion of organizing teams. And as we stated, you can use your issue tracker tool to do measurement and progress reporting. So, with that said, I think that that's the end of this sharing opportunity. When it comes to creating a playback using MS Teams, please reach out. Love to help you out with creating that, and then I'll also provide a link so that way you can create your own playbook. I have a CSV file that you can upload directly into Jira, so that way you can automatically get your playbook. And then finally, this is a part of a larger program, which is the Accelerated Agile Maturity Program. Reach out to us so you can find out a little bit more about the Agile Maturity Program. It helps with building high performing software teams. Focus on resiliency, responsiveness to the market, and increased throughput. So, love to hear from you. You see the numbers. Go ahead and give us a call. Thanks a lot.